In the last lesson, we learned what a variable is and how to bind a variable to an element on our front end. However, this variable had a fixed initial value that we set over here. Variables can, as their name suggests, be used to store data that varies or is variable. To see an example of this, we can use something called two-way variable binding. So, what exactly is two-way variable binding? Well, two-way variable binding is when a variable is bound to an element that will display content on the page, and when the same variable is also bound to an element that takes input, such as a text input box. For example, let's say that we have a variable here called to-do-item, and that this to-do-item variable is bound to a text element on our to-do list. This will show up in Didify like so. Let's say that we also want our users to be able to type in a new to-do into an input box like so. If we bind the to-do-item variable to both this input box and to this text element, then when the user starts typing into the text input box, this will update the text value inside of the to-do-item variable, and we will see the updated text displayed inside of the table like so. Let's see how this looks inside of Didify. So back in Didify, we already have bound the to-do-item variable to the text element here in our table. So let's next bind the to-do-item variable to this input box here. To do this, select the text input box, click the cog icon, and then click the T. Expand the global variables drop-down and then search for the to-do-item variable. Select the to-do-item variable and click OK. Now let's click Build Code in order to build our code. So once the code has been built, let's go over to the live app and click Refresh. Our table should now display the initial value that we set in the to-do-item variable. You can actually see the initial value displayed in two places. You can see that it's displayed in the table down here and also in the text input box here. This is because we have bound the variable to both the text input box and the text element inside of the table. Now, from inside my live app, I can then try typing in the input box, and you will see that the value of the to-do item in my table here updates to reflect what I am typing into this input box. And as we already know, this behavior is totally expected because my to-do item variable is bound to both this input box and also to this text element down here. So the data written into this input box is also being pushed into my to-do item variable. Pause the video now and either create a new variable or take an existing variable and bind the variable to an input box on your front end and also a text element box on your front end. After you've done that, build your code and test what happens when you add data into your text input box, just as I have done here.